Board of Education. I'm Kenny Lutz, the chairman of the board, and to my left is Mr. Ramsey, vice chair at large. I would like to go around the room here and I have each board member introduce themselves.
Lead that to Gaston Township.
Mark Upchurch, Terrible Township.
Catherine Roberts, Dallas Township.
Dot Guthrie, Gaston Township.
Kevin Collier, River Bend Township.
Dot Cherry, at-large member.
Thank you. On behalf of the board, I would like to welcome everyone here this evening. Our first order of business will be to adopt the agenda. This is an action item, and I will need this in the form of a motion. Ms. Cherry made the motion, second by Mr. Collier. Any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. The next item on our agenda is a budget update, and I'm going to ask Mr. Hoskins to come forward to present this item.
Good evening, Chairman Lutz, members of the board, Superintendent Booker. I'd like to present a bit of a budget update since the last time we met. We'll look at the budget calendar. As you can see, we have completed a lot of the budget tasks already. The only thing, or the next thing that we have on our budget calendar is on June 9th. The county commissioners are scheduled to approve the local budget. And at our next board meeting, June 15th, we will ask that you approve our interim budget. This is something that we do every year prior to our fiscal year end. Looking at the state budget update, a couple things have happened since we met last. There's some good news, some better news, and some no news. On the good news side, the governor's budget does include an increased funding of $225 million. That's roughly about a 2.5% to 3% increase where we are now. That does include increasing the starting salary for teachers. That's in the 0 to 4 years of experience from $33,000 to $35,000 a year. It also moves from lottery funding to general funding, the funding for teacher assistant positions, and that totaled about $64 million in the governor's budget. It also fully funds projected student growth. If you'll recall last year, that was a big issue. They made that a non-recurring item in the budget that was approved by both the House, the Senate, and the governor. And it also includes increased textbook funding. The better news is the House budget. This was just recently approved, I believe the last week or so. It increases our funding for education by over $500 million. So that's about a 6% increase of our existing funding. It also includes increased salaries for beginning teachers from $33,000 to $35,000. The same changing of funding for teachers' assistants, but it increases it from $64 million, which is the governor's version, to $84 million. It also protects any projected student growth and includes increased textbook funding. But in addition, it also includes a 2% salary increase for all state employees. It provides state support for our driver's ed program. That's about $26 million, which was not included in the governor's version of the budget. And it also puts this funding as a non-recurring item. So we don't know if it would be funded next year. And it also provides higher financial support for textbooks, supplies, school connectivity, and various other projects that were included in the governor's budget. Now the no news is the Senate budget. The Senate does not have any formal recommended budget at this time. However, the week of June 8th, which is next week, they are expected to release their initial proposal. However, they have made it clear that they are more inclined to be closer to the governor's budget of about a 2.5% increase than the House budget, which is about a 6%, 6.5% increase. So we'll wait for the next couple weeks or so and see what comes of the Senate budget. Local budget update. Last week, I believe, the county manager recommended to the county commissioners that they keep our funding flat for operating as well as our capital funding. If you recall, we had requested an increase of about $9.5 million in operating, and we requested that we increase our capital maintenance from $1.2 million to $5.2 million. There has been some discussion from the county commissioners also that they move $1.5 million from our operating to our capital. Now, obviously, we need that money for capital, but I'm not sure what we're going to do to make up that shortfall on the operating side. So that's a area that we need that presents some concern to us. And the county commissioners are scheduled to vote on this budget June 9th. And that is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hoskins. Is there any questions or discussion from the board on any of these items? Yes, Ms. Guthrie.
I would like to know that with this proposed state budget, would that give the districts more opportunity to hire more TAs in our system?
On the House side, their TA funding was about $84 million, $89 million, somewhere in that range, compared to $64 million. So it did provide for some additional TA funding. But again, the House funding or the House budget is less likely to receive approval than the governor's budget, which holds it flat. So I would project that it stays flat.
Thank you.
Mr. Collier.
Mr. Hoskins, the $26 million for driver's ed, what does that equal in our county? Is it going to make us whole, or?
Our driver's ed funding is just under $600,000, so it fully funds driver's ed where it was this year. So we would expect no increase, significant increase or decrease. But again, that's non-recurring funding.
Okay. Ms. Cherry.
Do you have any idea when we're going to find out what our budget's going to be?
Well, they say the week of June 8th, which is obviously next week, they should have some proposal. They have made it clear that I think they're $168 million less than what the House budget is. So I think it's clear that there will be an increase, somewhere in the 2 to 3% range. Driver's ed funding obviously is one of the big things that concerns us because that's a $600,000 budget item to us. I would say within the next week and a half to 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Mr. Upchurch.
The starting teacher salary, 33 to 35.
Mhm.
Where would the teacher be out there, or how many years have they taught if they're at 33 or 35, or
Would a first-year teacher?
first-year teacher going to be
Would they
making
make
a
it more than a
six-year
six-year teacher?
out there? Yeah.
The funding also provides that the scale move up a little bit. So I don't think a second-year teacher is not going to make more than a six-year teacher. So they've some of that funding, it makes the scale logical and
Okay.
as it is now.
Right. Okay.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to have any meetings with chairman of the commissioners regarding budget?
Yes,
I know
ma'am.
with
We
the
have
manager-
had several dialogues about the budget, and I expressed exactly what I thought this board wanted me to, far as our express funding and everything. And of course, I got a lot of positive things back from the chair, but there again, we won't know till we actually see that vote. And I will continue to have dialogue with the chair. Yes, Mr. Collier.
Mr. Chair, I just have a comment about what Mr. Hoskins showed us in the presentation about the county commissioners. $1.5 million moved from our operating budget over to capital. That concerns me a great deal, and I don't know in your dialogue if you've shared that, but I hope that that's a grave concern. If they if that gets any traction amongst the commissioners. That is the wrong way to go. And bottom line, I'm just going to make it short, that's jobs. We have to cut jobs, and that's what it boils down to if they move that money away from operations.
Thank you. Any other questions or any other discussion comments? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Hoskins. The next item on our agenda is the Gaston County Board of Trustees appointment. And each year, this board has an opportunity to appoint an individual to serve on the Gaston College Board of Trustees. Each year on June 30th, one of the four-year appointee rotates off the board, and then we appoint someone at that time. The term of this appointment will be from July 1st, 2015 until June 30th, 2019. Mr. James Reagan is currently serving in this role as member of the Board of Trustees and has expressed his interest in continuing to do this for the next 4 years or for another 4-year term. I received a written request from Mr. Reagan asking to be reappointed and a letter from the chairman of the board, James Smith, endorsing Mr. Reagan as a good board member, and really thought that he brought a lot of good information and a lot of energy to the table. I have asked that a copy of each one of those letters to be put at your where you're sitting tonight. And this item is not an agenda item, it's an information on our agenda, it's an information for tonight, but it will be on our meeting in 2 weeks as an action item. So if you have any questions, I will try to answer your questions. Mr. Booker will try to answer questions. Any questions that come up, I'd like for you to try to, let us know. We'll do our best to get these things answered, but it will be up for a vote in 2 weeks. And I'll be glad to answer any questions right now at this time, too. Okay, seeing no questions or discussion, we'll move on to the next item. It is a 10-point grading scale for grades 3 through 8. This is an information item, and Mr. Cook will come forward to present this.
Good evening, Chairman Lutz, board members, and Superintendent Booker. As you may recall, in January of 2015, the State Board of Education adopted a policy to go into effect 2015-16 that would mandate all high schools using a 10-point grading scale. There was also the recommendation that the State Board of Education, that we consider this for elementary and middle schools. Curriculum Instruction Division has been researching this for about the past 3 or 4 months, continuing to study, present, having lots of conversations. So Mr. Gary Ford, who's our director of middle school, I've asked him to share. He's been our point person on our team in facilitating those discussions, and so I wanted him to share some information and findings as we have researched this topic for you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Good evening. As Mr. Cook said, we spent the last 2 or 3 months studying this topic. So as always, we wanted to gather feedback from our stakeholders. We talked with our principals at principals meetings, met with teacher advisory council, talked with teachers during professional development meetings, and during our grading practices committee meetings. Some points that were made in times that we talked to our teachers and principals: consistency across grade levels, smooth transitions moving from elementary to middle and middle to high school, level the playing field. Many other states and throughout the United States already have a 10-point grading scale. However, from our feedback, our elementary schools thought it was best to leave K2 as standards based. Of course, it's always very important to get together parent feedback on this topic. Sampling of parents were surveyed from parent advisory boards, school improvement teams, as well as others, and the feedback received was very supportive and positive. We also looked at our surrounding counties. Feedback from our surrounding counties was gathered. All the counties that you can see listed have either adopted or are in process of recommending the move to the 10-point grading scale in grades 3 through 8. As we have studied the topic of 10-point grading scale, we know that communication is key if there is to be a change. So, communication with our teachers, students, and parents through various methods, as you see listed here, at the end of this year, as well as the beginning of next school year, will be very beneficial. So now we ask if you have any questions.
Mr. Upchurch.
Is there a plus or minus built into this? I mean,
So you're saying like an A minus or a B plus or a C
yeah, I mean,
minus?
if you got a 10-point scale and you've got an A ranging from 90 to 100, I mean, or not, I mean, whatever, they didn't put that in. Okay.
No
That
plus
was
or
never
minus.
brought up or anything on that. Okay, I'm just asking. It'll come around. Somebody's 90 is not going to be 100. So.
Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Guthrie.
the Curriculum and Instruction Committee will bring a recommendation to the full board at our next meeting.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Ford, thank you very much. We appreciate that. The next item on the agenda is student record fees, and I'm going to ask Dr. Baltnight to come forward.
Good evening, Chairman Lutz, school board members, and Superintendent Booker. Tonight, I would like to share with you information about our student record fees. Here I have some basic things that you may or may not be aware of for student records. We have periodically throughout the year, graduates of Gaston County Schools or non-graduates come in to get copies of their transcript. We now can do that online or in person. We have really benefited from moving to the online system as that's decreased the traffic into the district office and made it more convenient for people that have moved away. We now have about 30% of our traffic coming in the office still to request a transcript. To complete a transcript from start to finish, to process it and get it back out in the mail, it takes about 45 minutes per transcript. And so we tell our customers 3 business days. We ask them to give us 3 business days to complete the transcript. So as you can see, in the 2014 calendar year, we completed 4,132 requests. And if you go back 2 previous years, it's around that number. So when you multiply that by 45 minutes, that's quite a hardy job to take on for our records department that used to have a facility with the full staff that's now down to just 2 ladies that do other jobs as well. So we are, as you can see, which makes sense, in January and July, which aligns to the community college and college enrollment time periods. That's when we have our spike. That's also the time of the year that we have our increased enrollment into Gaston County schools. So how much do we charge for student records? $6. As you can see, we are at the top of this inverted chart. We're charging $6 for student records in comparison to other districts that go up to $15 that we surveyed to find out their charge for records. So you have anywhere from $6 to $15. When you look at those in surrounding counties, Cabarrus County, for example, is at 10. Cumberland County's at 10, Mecklenburg County's at 9, and they're projected to go to 10, but we wanted to put 9 here because they haven't officially changed. And then Cleveland County is also at 6, like we are. So when you see if we make a recommendation to increase our fee schedule from 6 to 9, that would put us in line with Mecklenburg and other surrounding counties in our region. And we make that request because of the time that it takes for each individual record to be processed, and we have to mail those out and take care of those materials for the families, and we think it's appropriate to increase the cost at this time. Still, we think we have a reasonable amount that we're requesting to charge $9 instead of $15 that some districts are charging, or even $13 as Union County is. Any questions about student records?
Mr. Dedman?
Dr. Ballna, we don't charge our current students for anything, do we?
Thank you for
Right.
pointing that out,
We
Mr.
just
Dedman.
only
Yes, sir.
people that have graduated and need transcripts are no longer students.
And in fact, graduates that will graduate this month in June will still have a six-month to 9-month window that they'll still get transcripts at
And
no
that's
cost to
normal
them.
procedure for everywhere.
Yes, sir, that's normal protocol.
Yes, ma'am.
What information do they need when they're going online to request it?
We have a series of questions that they have to answer to get into the records request system. For example, they may have to answer their third grade teacher's name, some things that will give them certain identify key comments that we would know that that is the person. They pick the transcripts up, some in person, of course they show their identification, and then those that do it online, we use a third party to authenticate as much as we can that that's the person. That's why we ask those other questions like your third grade teacher, what elementary school did you attend, things that potentially only that person would know.
Yeah, that was my issue, so thank you.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Cherry?
So, Dr. Ballnight, basically everybody gets one free transcript?
You get as many as you would like, as long as you're a student in Gaston County Schools and even in the year after.
Okay.
But beyond that, if you graduated 10 years ago,
Okay,
then
so
you would
once
pay
you're
for
on,
those.
then
Yes,
you pay.
ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And this item is for information tonight, and we'll be taking Dr. Ballnight's recommendation to the board as an action item in 2 weeks at that meeting. Yes, Ms. Guthrie?
May I say that I do know how carefully the folk that work in student records are when trying to retrieve or to generate records for those that are requesting them. And it does take time because I worked as student support and had folk working in student records. And it, believe me, the increase that you're asking for, it's well worth it. I know that this is not an action item tonight, but I just want to say that it does take time, and the folk are very careful and professional about getting those records into the right hands.
Yes, ma'am.
So I wanted to say that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, nothing else. Dr. Ballnight, I think you're presenting the next item is driver's education.
Yes, sir. Driver's education fees. As we have discussed, Mr. Hoskins alluded to in his budget presentation, there are some driver education possibilities that the funding will be restored for 1 year. But as we're planning and thinking forward, I want to share with you some basic information. I have this slide, and you can see that we served 2,136 students during the 13-14 school year. 1,992 of those students completed the behind the wheel. 144 did not complete the program. So when sharing this with my staff as we were building the presentation, they said, what's the importance of that? I think the importance of that is what I'll talk about in this upcoming slides, is the fact that it is something that children sign up for. They have to wait for the next session. And what we have is approximately 144 to 150 kids a year that sign up for it and don't complete it for whatever reason. There's a conflict, or maybe our process is not as quickly as they would like, so that keeps another child from taking it in a timely manner. So the cost per student is $35 for the classroom. It's $195 behind the wheel for a student, for a total cost of $230 per student. We serve every student that is a resident of Gaston County. So not just Gaston County Schools, but as a resident of Gaston County. How much do we charge? Currently, we do not charge anything to the families to complete driver's education in our county. So as you can see here by our LEA comparison, 72 of the 115 LEAs in the state charge a fee. The fee ranges from $20 to $65. 11 LEAs charge the maximum of $65, and the most common fee charge is $45 across the state. So again, Gaston County does not currently charge anything for driver's education. As you can see, our neighboring counties charge varying fees. Cleveland County, $38, Lincoln County, $50, Iredell Statesville, $55, and Mecklenburg, $55, as well as Cabarrus. So our recommendation that, as Mr. Lutz said earlier, will be decided at our board meeting in 2 weeks, would be to charge $25 per student for driver's education. We believe that charging the $25 for driver education will, number one, improve the attendance rate of the students to ensure that other children aren't delayed because you've signed up and you don't come because something else has deterred you from attending. And that really creates a backlog for us, and additional work and an inconvenience to the other families that want to complete driver's ed in a timely manner. Also to offset the cost to the district. Because if funding is restored for 1 year, as Mr. Hoskins alluded to, it's a non-recurrent expense. One of the things in talking with the other districts preparing for the possibility that driver's education will not be funded, they had already been charging. So they were in a better position than we were to take on that expense. So this is our recommendation for you to consider.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
When are you proposing that we would start charging? Because we have kids that are signed up for summer sessions that we're not given any indication that there could possibly be a charge.
If this is approved at our next board meeting, then my recommendation would be that we begin with the new students that have not even signed up for driver's education. So that potentially will be sometime in August. And we would begin communication through our chief communications officer to share that with the schools and the community.
Dr. Baltonight, once a child signs up and pays now, or doesn't pay, well, they don't pay now, but are we obligated to pay for that complete course study? Say a child signs up and goes one time and says, I don't want to go anymore, so we still pay the full amount to the driving school?
If they sit in the class, then we pay for that portion of driver's education, but if they never appear, then we don't pay the cost.
Okay.
The disadvantage to the district is that we've delayed other children that are ready
Yes.
and have been waiting to sign up,
Yes.
and maybe they had to sign up in the spring because they were a football player, all those other factors. Now we've delayed them again because we had children on the list that
Okay.
didn't show up for training.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Seeing no other questions, thank you, Dr. Baltonight. Are you going to do this last item too, I think, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. The last item is new schools and school choice options.
Yes, sir. And new schools and school choice options, we keep this on our agenda so we can update you as we make progress with all of these options that are moving forward within the district. And so first, I'd like to share with you some information about our West Gastonia School Consolidation Project. The Ryan families have been notified, and I think I mentioned that to you at our previous work session, and they have been sending information back into the student assignment office as to how we can serve them best based on the choices they were given. Multiple departments have worked with the Ryan staff to make sure this is a smooth transition for them as well. We also are working with Bessemer City Central and Primary and the other schools. In fact, Bessemer City Central and Primary have already had a student orientation. They picked the students up from Ryan and brought them over on the same days other students were coming to their school for orientation. They want to make sure that they were a part of that same process, so we're working with the individual schools. The other schools are having their orientations over the summer for the students and the parents, separate and different from the traditional orientation and open house, so that the parents will have an opportunity to tour the school, the kids will have an opportunity to get used to the new facility and those sorts of things. So that's gone very well with the schools. This has actually come to us from the community. The West Gastonia School Consolidation Community Group has asked for a Ryan alumni event at Ryan, and they'll actually be on the field on June the 12th, 2015 from 4:30 to 7:30. Actually, Wavy Williams is our contact. We met with him today. He's finalizing details. So I put this in the presentation. So again, the community is made aware of it and that you also are aware of it. I'm sure at a later time you'll receive a formal invitation to this event, but it's for anyone that's attended Ryan Elementary or has a connection. They'll be out there with a podium sharing stories about the school and just have an opportunity to reconnect one last time. Hawks Nest Steam Magnet. I think the last time we discussed this, I shared with you that we were preparing to go and talk with that school community and had gotten some feedback. One of the things, we did meet with them on April the 16th, and the feedback was that we would like something from the superintendent to give us information about next steps, and that is included at your chair in a folder with another letter from Mr. Cook, or information from Mr. Cook, and that's the sample letter that Mr. Booker gave to the Hawks Nest and Robinson parents about the transition of Hawks Nest to a STEAM program. And that was given to them on May the 17th. So that went home with every student. And this is actually out of the operations area. Mr. Holler has shared with us to present, to put in this presentation tonight. Surveys have been completed for the schools, and the architects have begun the program development. One of the other things that they've done is they've already gone to a site visit in Cabarrus County to get ideas from that as well. And at the end of this presentation, when you ask questions, I'll certainly defer to my colleagues to answer these questions. I can't pretend to even start answering the questions about that. And then Mr. Cook, as I said, has put a document in your folder that gives you the list of community members and others that are part of the CT Oversight Committee. And so those letters have been sent out, an invitation to participate in the committee to the various groups listed. And they have named representatives to participate in the CT Oversight Committee. And the first meeting will be Tuesday, June the 16th, 2015 at 6 p.m. at the central office. Questions?
All right. Any questions or comments for Dr. Baltonight? Yes, Ms. Roberts.
I see the commissioners still have 2 spots that are to be determined on our committee.
Yes.
Do we have
Yes.
a deadline?
I've spoke with Chairman Philbeck last week, and he promised to get those to us this week. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Dr. Baltonight. We appreciate everything and all your hard work and all your staff's hard work.
Thank you.
Let me,
You want?
let me,
I'd like to recognize Mr. Booker.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to add a couple things to let you all know some great stuff that went on this past week. Thank you to each of you who were able to attend award ceremonies of each of our high schools. If you were like me, the one I attended, I was overwhelmed by all the accomplishments of our seniors and then the recognition of juniors for various academic achievements. It was just a great night and shows you what it's, we spend a whole year for those children, a 13-year career with us. So thank you all for the time you gave. I also wanted to let you know about a great event this weekend. The robotics competition for the Western region was hosted at Lenore Ryan University. We continued our great success. Tryon Elementary was the first runner-up in the overall competition. In the robot performance, we had both the first place team, Brookside Elementary, and the second place team, Woodhill Elementary. In project presentation, remember, this is developing a full experience for our children. They get presentation experience as well as how to work in teams and dealing with robotics. In the presentation, we both first place and second place. Belmont Middle School was first place with their project presentation, and then Cramerton Middle School was second place with their project presentation. Also, this competition recognized the first Tech Challenge program, and Gaston Early College came in second place in that. So our district did a great job with the robotics program, and Ms. Minnick helps coordinate all of that. And she's beaming with pride because I think there's a member of the Cramerton Middle School that was really a special friend of hers. And so, but just wanted you all to know that that program continues to offer opportunities for our children to succeed, and they do a great job of bringing home the hardware for us. So, and with that, Mr. Chairman, I would ask for a closed session for personnel.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Booker. I will need that in the form of a motion. Mr. Ramsey has made the motion. Do I have a second?
Can we state that motion with the?
You got it?
Yeah, the closed session, North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6 personnel.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ramsey. Do I have a second? Ms. Cherry has seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous. We'll be going into closed session. We want to Mr. Booker.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'd like to make the following recommendations. First, Director of Testing. With the retirement of the Director of Testing effective June 30th, I would recommend the appointment of Pam Huffstedler, currently serving as Assistant Principal at Ashbrook High School, to the position of Director of Testing.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. I will need that in the form of a motion. Ms. Cherry has made the motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Upchurch, second. Any discussion? All in favor? And it is unanimous, Mr. Booker.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the next position is the Director of Community Relations. This position is one that works directly with me here in central office, and I would recommend that Jacob Barr, the current principal at Pinewood Elementary, serve as the Director of Community Relations.
Okay, I need that in the form of a motion. Mr. Upchurch, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Guthrie. Any discussion? All in favor? And that is unanimous.
Thank you, members of the board. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I would recommend 3 new principal hires. The first is for Warlick Academy, Kurt Hovis. Second, for Gardner Park Elementary School, Jamie Wallace. And third, for Chavis Middle School, Justin Bean.
Mr. Dedman has put that in the form of a motion. I need a second from Ms. Roberts. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? And it is unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I recommend the following principal transfers. Brian Denton from Chavis Middle School to Cramerton Middle School. Amy Holbrook from Cramerton Middle School to York Chester Middle School. Kathy Withers from McAdenville Elementary School to Pinewood Elementary School. And Linda Neely from Ryan Elementary to McAdenville Elementary School.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. I also need that in the form of a motion by Ms. Cherry. I need a second. Ms. Roberts, any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? And that is unanimous.
The final appointment tonight, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, is to transfer the assistant principal from South Point High School, Carolyn Black, to serve as the assistant principal at Gardner Park Elementary School.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. I need that in the form of a motion. Mr. Ramsey, do I have a second? Mr. Collier, any discussion? All in favor? It is unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Thank you. I have one other comment before I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Tomorrow is a big day for Mr. Howell because it's his birthday. So can everyone remember? Can everyone remember to wish Mr. Howell a wonderful and a happy birthday tomorrow? And with that, I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Mr. Collier?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I have a second. Ms. Cherry? Any discussion? All in favor? And that is unanimous. We're adjourned.